All right, here we go. Keeping things going on. It's episode 13, part 2, our indie spotlight of the night here at the No Name Cinema Society. I still can't believe it's our 13th episode. Tonight we're going to talk about the film Land Ho from last year. My name is Jonathan Betzler, and we've been, with the exception of one film, The Hunt, we've almost done exclusively recommending indies from 2014. Now, admittedly, we're getting towards the end of the list of films that we could recommend. So I think I speak for all of us that the films, unless we see something that we hadn't seen before, the films that we're going to talk about in the next few weeks, the indie spotlights, are maybe more marginal recommendations, and we'll talk about them, and explain reasons why. I mean, for example, I'm the one recommending Land Ho. I think it's a good film. I don't think it's a great film, and I'll explain that as the evening goes along. But before I do, I want to introduce my cohorts. First, the lovable, handsome Jay Money, and he's here to agitate me, apparently.
That's right. I am here to agitate you, although now that you've buttered me up, I don't see how I could do that.
That's right. I didn't even see that, and I protected myself unknowingly from harm.
I'm so enamored.
Oh, and you know what? You look good too. You're looking sharp tonight.
Wow, look at that.
See what I'm doing, folks? See how I'm doing that? And of course, how could I forget the even more lovable drunk Davey out there in Charlotte, North Carolina. Davey, how you feeling tonight? Ready for some indie chat?
Oh, I can't wait, because I can't wait to talk about this one.
Oh, that's interesting. I wouldn't expect this is your kind of film. My point of, since I'm the one recommending, I'm just going to go first. My point about this film is I feel like it is ultimately charming, and I think that I found it ultimately charming, and I think that's why it sort of pushed it over the edge for me. And as you'll see, hopefully in the coming weeks, there's at least one film that I wanted to recommend slightly more, that wasn't available to everyone the way that this one is. So we went this one first, and hopefully in a couple of weeks or in a month we'll talk about that other one, because I think it's coming out soon. But I think that it has a pretty well-structured script and great cinematography. Those are the highlights. The drawback for me was the performances. As you've probably seen if you've watched our show before, is I'm very focused on. I'm very actor sensitive, and one of the actors I'd seen before, Paul Einhorn, and he was terrible, and he's equally terrible here. And the other one, Earl Lynn Nelson. Well, I have more complicated issues with him. This is my first time with him, but that was the big drawback for the film. But still, the charm of the script and cinematography mostly won the day. As you can see, I'm conflicted about this film, but I liked it better than Minions. So, Davey Joe, you wanted to talk about it, so why don't you go first?
Which of the two actors was doing the sling blade impersonation?
I think by the three names you could tell that it's Earl Lynn Nelson.
Okay.
Since Jay Money likes this, I'll just give you guys the quick summary, because I did forget to do that. So basically, two older senior citizen men, one of which was the ex-brother-in-law of the other, and one sort of gregarious, the other sort of reserved, Bert and Ernie type figures. They decide to go on this golden age trip to Iceland and see the sights, experience things, one last hurrah, and I think one of them's sick. I saw it in January, so maybe you guys can remind me about that. And they basically then they just go on a tour of Iceland and get into various misadventures. So anyway, that's the basic plot. Did I miss anything plot-wise, guys?
Oh no. No.
I see already, Jay Money, that you feel similarly that I do. Maybe even more critical. But Davey Joe, you go ahead.
Oh my God, this was such a tedious waste. Man, this was painful. Dude. Oh no. I gotta warn anybody listening to this. I mean, I'm just one man. Take it for what it's worth. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's bad, man. This is bad. It's I don't know. The first 3 hours of this movie It's like, you can kind of tell that.
It's not 3 hours. So the audience knows it's not 3. I can't believe I'm going to be the one defending this movie. I feel like that's the spot that I'm put in right now. I mean, I can't say that it's bad. I have very serious issues with it. But I mean, you also didn't like Boyhood, so I mean, I think it almost seems like this, you put this in that camp in the sense that you don't like character-driven films that way.
No, I do, but I have to be interested in the characters. There has to be, I mean, there has to be something. The script has to be good. Something has to happen in the movie. I need something. And look, it's I'll tell you what. I'm gonna say it, man. It's worse than Boyhood. It's worse than Boyhood because Boyhood had.
I mean, like that is not that much of a slam. I'm just saying, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, every film but 2 was worse than Boyhood last year.
Yeah, but not to me. Not to me. This is I go through my my Letterboxd, which is a place where you like rate movies, and I can't decide whether this or Hot Pursuit is the worst thing I've seen all year.
Wow. We've had some tough competition, though. I mean, that's saying something right there.
Yeah, Cappy
I
is
mean,
hot on that.
that's a little harsh. I mean, and maybe I'm grading it on an indie scale. I'm acknowledging that, as an indie filmmaker, maybe I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt. I do know one of the producers, someone that I've talked to you guys about in the past. But I mean, like, I generally, and she'll tell you that doesn't normally color my opinion. J Money, I'm guessing that you like it maybe slightly better than that. Maybe in between he and I.
Yeah, I guess I'm probably in between the two of you guys. Although I think that I'm actually siding more with you, JB. I think that I guess I would give it points in some ways for being a charming movie, as you described. I think that more than anything, I think it's commendable that they were trying to make a movie about a subject matter that is pretty much marginalized in Hollywood in general. We just don't really see that many movies about people of a certain age that are trying to find themselves. It's just not a segment of population that people in the industry seem to spend a lot of time talking about. So from that point of view, I thought that was actually kind of interesting. I think it was interesting that they were trying to find these sort of the subject matter that you wouldn't necessarily want to shoot a film about. I don't think they necessarily did a successful job of that. I think you said something about the cinematography early on. I absolutely agree with you. The cinematography in this thing is probably more interesting than the most of the rest of the movie for me. But then again, they're also in a beautiful landscape. I don't know how much I really want to give them credit for being in place.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about that, but then I also know how difficult, especially given the nature of the landscape and the volcanic geology of the land and all the steam and mist that involve with Iceland, that's actually very difficult to like. Yeah. I mean, most exterior, like if they went to Arizona and it looked beautiful, or Wyoming and it looked beautiful, I would say the landscape did half their work for it. But in the case of Iceland, and I haven't been to Iceland, but based on what I saw in terms of the mist, I mean, there's things that they had to do with exposure, and I'm sure they augmented some lighting. I have a feeling that I give them more credit than I normally would for something that has as many exteriors. And you know what? They had some night exteriors too that I thought were pretty well shot, which is unusual for an indie.
Yeah, I don't want to take away from what they did. You certainly know the technical end of the stuff much more than I do. I just think that they had a lot of stuff to work with, so it's easier for them to pull it out maybe than if they were in the middle of Cincinnati, for instance. To your point, it's like there are a lot of opportunities for them to shoot really nice areas. They chose one.
Cincinnati of all places.
Yeah.
Did you watch the All-Star game last week? Is that where that came from?
No. I'm just trying to think of a place that might be hard to make look pretty, and Cincinnati popped into mind. No offense to Cincinnatians. But ultimately,
well, clearly you have no problem making Charlotte look pretty. Look at that set for Davey Joe.
the gold curtains. That's what really ties the whole room together. Just getting back to what you said, I think ultimately the problem here is the performances. And also it's funny because you talked about the script early on. I'm really curious about how they handled the script to begin with, because a lot of this felt like they were just kind of letting their actors try to find their own space and go with it. I really didn't get a sense that there was a strong script behind this movie. But let me know. I mean, I'd be very.
I mean, I don't know for a fact. I mean, I suspect that there was. I mean, I'm sure that there was improv, and certainly the actors I mean, what I feel like is there was a script that the actors were allowed to interpret in a loose fashion, which is basically why I don't think they were giving complete performances. I think that they were just being themselves as much as they possibly could.
Yeah.
In a very docudrama kind of way. But the problem was Erland Nelson's character was so gregarious. Like, he had some funny lines. I admitted, like, I laughed, but it doesn't make his performance complete. He wasn't playing a three-dimensional character necessarily. Was my impression. Paul Einhorn the indie film world has this obsession with this guy, and I think it's just his accent, like this sort of awkward accent. He's Australian, but he doesn't sound like Hugh Jackman Australian, and he's Australian, but like moved to the Pacific Northwest at an early age. And I only know this because last year I saw him in an indie called This Is Martin Bonner, which is an awful, awful movie. But he came in for the Q&A and told a little about his history, and like he's the lead in that film, and he's awful, but he won awards for it in the way that sometimes the indie, especially the indie festival world, can be very like myopic, and they're I think they almost like more interested in the story of this guy coming from Australia to Seattle and then being plucked from obscurity. So now he's like in all these indies, and like it won't stop, and like I'm like, when is somebody gonna realize this guy's not a real actor?
I mean, I liked his performance more than Earl, what's his faces.
Blade.
From a less is more point of view, because he's just sort of.
I think that's what I think. Yeah, it might have just in the fact that he was the less grating of the two of them in a lot of ways. But I also think, I'll give the guy a few props. I think he does have a nice brooding quality to him. I think that it was nice he was playing a very mild man. I thought it was nice that he seemed, intent on trying to bring some drama to some of the stuff that wasn't just about being over the top, because that was certainly what the other character he was playing against was just doing over and over again, was just trying to be over the top.
And you might be able to, for the audience, you might be able to tell this based on the positions in this photo, but the mild-mannered one is the one in the foreground in this photo, and the gregarious one is the one in the background pointing his finger. To that gives you any sense of what we're dealing with. I mean, like, I see your point about mild-mannered, but don't be fooled by that, because I feel like he's still not acting. You know what I mean? Like, he's still.
It's funny because
not creating a character.
He felt very not professional to me as well. He felt like a guy that they just found somewhere. So
which is the truth, but I mean, like, and I think that's my main issue with him in both films. I mean, it just so happens that This Is Martin Bonner is just an awful film to begin with, and he didn't help matters. Anyway, that's a whole other story. Davey Joe, what else you got?
You're right in that he was absolutely not acting, because the man was bored. He looked bored, he acted bored, and it's a boring movie. So I mean, you're not acting at that point. He wasn't selling. Nothing was coming through. Nothing was getting across. It was, God, man. Oh man, this is awful. The other guy's a caricature. So I mean, you can kind of.
I'll give you that.
You can kind of take from that what you want. I mean, it's obnoxious. I thought. I mean, I couldn't.
Well,
10 minutes. But at least he was doing something. The other guy, you're right. Absolutely, JB, 100% bad.
Well, it's funny. I recommended this movie, and we've only pretty much knocked it. I do want to say I did like the scene with the dinner scene with one of the guys had a niece, and she brought a friend, and there was some strange sexual tension there that I thought was interesting. I sort of liked that scene. I felt the film got a little more rote from there on out, but I thought there was something interesting going on in that scene, and some good dialogue. I wish the two ladies stayed around a little longer, because they actually felt a little more natural as actors. So I do want to get back to saying some nice things about it again, because I did recommend it, and I do think Davey Joe in particular has just a different aesthetic than the rest of us, in the sense that, and he'll tell you, you represent the everyman on this show. Have you said that before?
I don't think so. I mean, I like that. I don't think it's necessarily accurate. But
he didn't say that, Jay Money, didn't he? Am I making that up?
He is the populist on the show. I think that he is the everyman.
Okay. I mean, I feel like I recall him saying that, at least during the Oscar preview, maybe. But anyway, I mean, I expected him not to like this movie so much. But I mean, I do think that a fast pace is overrated. I mean, like, given all this,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that Davey Joe would not like my work very much. I mean, when you say that's true, J Money? I mean, like, I'm known for having sort of a Proustian pace in my films.
No, I think that your stuff is definitely faster than, for instance, this movie or even Boyhood. So it's hard to say. I mean, like, you definitely have things that are happening, but you definitely take more time to let your characters sort of breathe, and maybe that's something that Davey Joe is reacting to here as well. Because this movie really had no plot, ultimately. It wasn't really about the action within the scenes. It was about watching these characters come to some sort of conclusions through the scenes. And, yeah, I mean, even I watched some really, like, slow-moving, admittedly boring stuff. Thought this movie was a little tedious. I mean, there just wasn't a lot for me to grasp onto. If I thought the characters were a little fuller, I probably would have enjoyed it more. But ultimately, I didn't necessarily enjoy spending that much time with them. So for me, it dragged because of that.
Right, and I did warn you guys before we agreed to recommend it that I said I'm on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm like a 5 or a 6, grading on an indie scale. So I mean, like, there was some like discussion, should we even bother? And I think we had talked about it at one point before I remembered Dom Hemingway, if you recall. Like, we were going to do this 2 weeks ago. So I mean, like, it's, I've always recommended this with sort of a marginal thumbs up.
I don't need to like them all, man. That's fine. It's
true. It's true. I mean, like, I feel like, because we do these indie spotlights to spotlight films that we feel like people might want to watch, and I feel like in this case we've not done a great job of supporting this movie, and that's fine. And you know what? I mean, like, there was a movie that I think you were a little harsh on, and that was A Girl That Walks Home at Night, that I actually thought you would really like.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the one where the vampire bores people to death?
Yeah.
maybe we shouldn't allow Davey Joe to participate in the indie spotlight anymore.
We have to pick more things for Davey Joe to hate. This is the best thing you've done in a while. Like, you gotta hate on everything now, Davey Joe. You have to.
I mean, I don't understand why you can't hate on Minions with this much passion. I mean, can you honestly tell me that Minions was a better movie than Land Ho? I mean, like, at least Land Ho had, like, some the actress wasn't good, but the script had character development.
Did it?
I don't know about that.
Well,
Did it?
The script attempted character development. I don't think it was. I don't know about execution, but
Minions did not attempt it. I'll give you that. Minions did not attempt it.
I mean, the script was attempting for these characters to have arcs. And I just want to say to our viewers out there, because it now appears that we have a few. Feel free to make comments here. It is enabled, so if you make comments, we could talk to you guys directly. Oh, I can even affect your guys' volume. Say something, J Money.
Hello. How's it going? You know what? What I would say is that I want to get back to how I appreciate the subject matter, because I would have liked to have seen. I'd like to see more of this kind of thing happening. I'd like to see more of these kind of stories told. I kind of wish the movie had brought a little bit more to it, or maybe just the actors in general had brought a little bit more to the process, just because I think that there is something that could have been in there. I think there was a kernel that was worth the storytelling in there, and that's, I think, part of the reason that maybe we're talking about it this way so much is that there was potential, certainly, just like what we said with Minions, there was potential, and it just seemed to kind of not follow through on that. It just seemed like it was such a hard time for them to get outside of, I don't know, it's almost like they were trying so hard to seem normal that it ended up seeming contrived in that sense. There were plenty of times when I was aware that they were trying to be low-key, as opposed to them just being low-key. There was a lot of times when I was aware that they were intentionally showing us the banal elements of their life, as opposed to just showing us banal stuff, Like, a lot of it felt like it was very much, put around that idea, and they were really trying hard to let us know about it.
Well, this film did get some good reviews, and I challenge the people watching to take it, in spite of what Davey Joe says. In fact, I think he said, didn't you say stay away from this movie at all costs or something along those lines?
Something like that.
I'm going to recommend that you don't do that and decide for yourselves, and then let us know. I mean, maybe you agree with Davey Joe. I do feel like, maybe Davey Joe needs to open his mind about slower paced concepts.
I think that you're painting me with a bit of a broad brush, but
yeah. There is a pattern here. There is this Boyhood, Land Ho, Girl Walks Home at Night pattern, and I mean, J Money's with me on the Girl Walks Home at Night, I believe.
Yeah, no, I love that movie.
So, and I mean, even that other movie you talked about, the Oscar preview, Only Lovers Left Alive, is that the name of it?
Yeah.
Even that has something as a methodical pace that I enjoyed.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
Okay, maybe there's a reason for that. So, well, do you guys have closing thoughts?
I will also, because it's on Netflix, I'm going to say if you already have Netflix, give it a shot, because what have you got to lose? It's not the kind of movie you have to feel bad about seeing later on, and if you want to stop it halfway through, then feel free to do that. So I will also give it a recommend.
I will not advocate stopping halfway through. I mean, just personally as a filmmaker, I don't believe in that. But I will sit through anything all the way through.
I also feel the same way. I think it's awful when people leave halfway through. But I'm just saying it's a low-risk environment for somebody to try a movie like this out and see what they think.
That's true. David Joe, have you seen Gus Van Sant's Jerry by chance?
No.
What about Gus Van Sant's Last Days?
No.
J-Money, have you seen either of those films?
I think I saw Jerry a while ago. When did that come out? Was that early 2000s?
Oh, 02, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I want to say I saw it like way back when.
Some of the most gorgeous cinematography I've ever seen, but if you want to see boring, you haven't touched boring until you've seen Jerry.
Okay. All right.
Anyway, if Davey Joe thought a modern Icelandic movie like Land Ho is boring, I'm scared what he's going to say about a 1930s movie where a methodical pace was more the norm, and that's going to be our classic movie that we're going to talk about in 8 minutes, All Quiet on the Western Front, the Best Picture winner from 1930, the third ever Best Picture winner. That's coming up, our classic movie discussion of the week, 8 minutes, and we will see you then. And I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be awesome. And at the end of the All Quiet on the Western Front, we're going to have a debut of a brand new segment. And that'll be a surprise. We'll tell you later on. We'll see you guys in 8 minutes.